Hi, thanks for joining me today. Would you like to know one way of building respect inside your stepfamily? Subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell, and I'll let you know every time I post. Human beings are meaning-making machines. Let me just explain. When we are surrounded by huge amounts of information in everything we do, all day, and in order to make sense of our world, we need to reduce it to some kind of mechanism where we can remember what we think and recall stuff and be able to operate in this world. And in order to do that, we make meaning of the world we see around us. But we can all make different meanings from the things that we experience and see and hear. So if after an accident in the street, you ask a number of witnesses what happened, it's quite plausible to get very, very different versions of the story, to such an extent that you can think to yourself, well, was this the same accident that everybody saw? So we as human beings are selective about what we choose to remember about things and what has significance for us. It's like as though we put it through a filter in our heads and take from it what we want. Now, we are also verbal. So when we make meanings of things, we often make a shortcut and describe things as something like, that was awful, or that was a waste of time, or that person is incompetent, or this is such and such. And we do that so we can be more effective in the way we think about things, and we can think faster. So we can have an experience and then come to a conclusion about it in one word, like that was horrific, or that was beautiful, or that was evocative, or that was sensational, or that was clever, or he is intelligent, or anything. We come to conclusions about absolutely everything in order to make our lives more efficient. Now, there's nothing that's necessarily wrong with making our lives more efficient, but where it can be detrimental to us, and particularly detrimental in step-family life, is when we come to conclusions and we can label things. And so you can label the time that you spend when your stepchildren are with you is when time stands still, or you find it very frustrating, or you find that you're angry all the time when they're there. Now, the thing is, it's all very well to say they frustrate you, or it's a frustrating time, but that's not always helpful. And I just want to highlight how our labelling of people and things can be to our detriment, because it can change our experience. And if we refuse to label it negatively, our experience can be different. So we can label somebody as loud, and every time you see them, you experience them as loud, but then you miss the times when they're not loud, and you are not looking for the exceptions. So your mind filters those quiet times out. And so you only ever see that person as loud. You're going to say to me, well, they are always loud. But just be careful of that, because what I want you to do as a result of this session is to find the times when they're not what you say they are. Be observant of the exceptions, because our short-circuiting system will just override those, and we get trapped into labelling stuff very unhelpfully. It's a bit like those little t-shirts that you can put on children that say things like, "Here comes trouble." That's not helpful. If you always see that little person as "here comes trouble," I mean, I know it's tongue-in-cheek, and I know it's a kind of joke, and I know you don't really mean it, but just be careful what you label your stepchildren. Think now, if you had to sum up your stepchild in one word, what would that word be? And if that word is a negative, then be careful what you are labelling your stepchild, and be careful that you're not always treating that person in that way. Well, what do you expect to get back if you label somebody something like that? But it's detrimental for the child too. It can be really damaging. As a child, if you are labelled something, you often take it on. So just be careful about what you're asking for from your stepchildren. Because it is just as easy to relabel that child something else, something a little bit more helpful. How about labelling them well-meaning when they don't always get it right all the time, or sometimes forgetful, or not always the most organised of people, or someone who has a special gift of looking at life in an unusual way? Just be careful, because if you label somebody something positive, positive things can come from that for you, but also for them. And children need the adults in their lives to be supportive. And that's what being supportive is. It's labelling them something helpful for them and complimentary and nice and makes them feel good about themselves. And that's what children need to be able to grow into self-respecting adults. A self-respecting adult will also respect others. And I bet you respect is something that you would like from your stepchildren in the future. So be careful and look at those labels you're using now. It's almost more important in a step family to look at these labels than it is in a traditional family, because in a traditional family you've also got other things going on, like a deep-seated connection and an attachment to them and a love relationship, which doesn't always exist in a step family. So it's very important in a step family to look at these aspects. The other thing is, it's easy when you're amongst friends to sort of, slang people off or describe things in a funny way which are slightly derogatory, or you get on with people by sort of sharing your dislike or distaste of something or someone, and it's a kind of shared bonding you get from sort of talking about things in a particular way. But in a step family, when you're wanting things to work out well, just be careful you're not setting it up so you get the wrong result. You can get the right result by the way you label things. We run workshops, sessions, booklets, and we have an email response service. Do look at the description box below to find links to our social media and website.